Hey class, in today's tutorial we are going to cover how to create, duplicate, and manipulate the wall system families in the Revit project environment. As we know from before, system families are families that only exist in the Revit project environment. They can't be saved outside of their environment like a component family. System families, like walls, are built up of multiple layers of different materials and thicknesses to create that singular system that generally helps define our building envelope, particularly walls, roofs, floors, and ceilings. They also apply to stairs and railings. There are three ways in the Revit project environment to create a new system family. The first is the duplicate function under your Edit Type tab. The second is to copy and paste a system family from another Revit project. And the third is to transfer project standards from another Revit project under your Manage tab. For this tutorial, we are only going to focus on the duplicate function. So let's draw some walls. The first thing we want to do is make sure that in our architectural template that Revit provides us with, we have selected Level 1 floor plan under our project browser. In our Properties browser, under the Graphics heading, we want to scroll down and make sure that our detail level is set to Fine. If I hover over Coarse and click, the drop-down will come down and give me the three selections of Coarse, Medium, or Fine. Under Coarse, we would use for a schematic design phase, and it will not show the different layers of the wall we're building as it's cut in plan. The Fine selection will show us all of those layers, and we'll be able to see what the makeup of that system family is as it's cut in plane. For this tutorial, we also want to check our scale. Right now, we're set to 1/8 inch equals a foot. This is a relatively small scale and will not show the level of detail that we want to see for this tutorial. So we're going to change that to 1/2 an inch equals a foot. As you can see, when we do change that scale, it makes our elevation tags relatively small. We want to keep those elevation tags in our view, but we don't want to see them for this tutorial. So we're going to scroll over to our Properties browser and enable our Crop View function under the Extents header. You can see that does nothing because our crop view or crop region is outside the borders of these tags. So to change that, we're going to also select Crop Region Visible under the Extents header. This will show us the borders or the extents of our crop region. We're going to select that crop region and edit it. If we select the northernmost extent line, we can see that we have 170 feet of space between it and the southern extent line. We're just going to pull those down so that our south and north elevation are not in view or not in range of those extents. And we're going to do the same with the east and west to make a rough square that maybe or maybe not equal. Now we're going to click our green check and finish the edit mode and hit ZE for zoom extents. We don't want to see the crop regions, so we're going to unselect that, but keep our crop view enabled. And now we have a clean workspace. Under the Architecture tab, we're going to select the Wall function. If we drop down that Wall function, we see we have three selections: Wall Architecture, Wall Structural, and Wall by Face. Wall architectural refers to any of the walls that we draw to comprise the building envelope above grade that is not a structural element. Wall structural typically refers to a foundation wall, a shear wall, or a structural wall that typically the structural engineer will be in charge of modeling. Wall by face refers to a wall that's been applied to a mass that's been created in Revit. We're not going to cover massing during this semester, but if you are interested, please reach out and I can go over how to create masses and how to apply a wall or a different material to that mass. For this tutorial, let's focus on walls architectural. If we select that function in our properties browser, we see that basic wall generic 8-inch is the first selection that comes up. This selection will be the last selected wall type or last selected system family that you had up when your project was last closed. Here in the status bar, we can see lots of information that's tied to that wall type you have selected. You can change the height or depth of the wall, whether it's connected to a level 1 or level 2 here in the project browser, or unconnected in height. Right now our height is set at 30 feet at an unconnected height. Let's change that to 10 feet. When we change it in the status bar, it also changes in the properties browser. These two coincide. However, there are some things in the status bar that you cannot update in the properties browser. For instance, the chain function. If you have the chain function selected, you will draw a continuous line of walls based on the last point that you selected for your last wall to end. The location line is where you will start drawing your wall based on the wall center line, the core center line, finish face exterior, finish face interior, core face exterior, or core face interior. I typically like to draw from the finish face exterior or interior, or the core face exterior or interior. For today, we're going to choose finish face exterior. You can also offset a wall, which means when you draw a line, that wall will offset that distance or that dimension from the line that you're drawing. You can also select to join your walls by a radius instead of a right angle, and you can determine the dimension or diameter of that radius if this button is selected here in this field. You may also choose your join status for walls to join automatically or for walls to not join at all, allowing or disallowing the join. All right, let's get back to our wall type. We have basic wall generic 8-inch selected. Let's click that drop down and see what other wall types we have embedded into this Revit architectural template. The architectural template comes with multiple wall types already embedded that we can use, but we want to create our own wall type today. So we're going to take that generic 8-inch wall and change it to a new wall type. And the way we do this is with this Edit Type button. By selecting the Edit Type button, it brings up our Type Properties window. In our Type Properties window, there's a lot of things to look at. We've got the type of family, system family basic wall, the name, generic 8-inch. We have a preview of our wall. And then we have a lot of other associated information here under the type parameters. To change the structure of the wall, under the parameter type, under construction, and under the cell or header structure, we have an Edit tab under the Value column. Let's select that. This brings up our Edit Assembly window. and it shows us the different layers that are creating our system family or our wall type. As you can see, in this basic generic 8-inch wall, we have one layer and it's 8 inches. It has no material associated with it, and it is the only structural element. While we only have one material layer, we still have 3 layers. One core boundary on the exterior side and one core boundary on the interior side, and one material sandwiched in between those. Notice on the top of this field, the exterior side refers to any layer above this top core boundary. The interior side on the bottom refers to any layer on the bottom side of this core boundary. Anything located in between the 2 core boundaries is considered a structural element. That is where your true structure of any wall system should live. Everything not a structural element, such as a finish or a substrate or a thermal or air barrier, should live on the outside of those core boundaries. Let's cancel out of this window and go back to our type properties. To create a new wall type from this wall type, we're going to select the duplicate button. By duplicating this, we're essentially copying this wall and editing the copy. We're going to change this to an interior wall, 2 inches by 4 inches, wood stud with gypsum board. Select OK, and now go back under Value column and select the Edit tab. This brings up our Edit Assembly window. Under Structure, or the number 2 layer, we're going to select the by category under Material. This brings up our material browser. Now we're going to do a search for wood stud. Nothing comes up. So we are going to create a new material like we've done in previous tutorials. Under Identity, we're going to change that default new material to wood stud. Under Graphics, we're going to change the color of the shading to a brown. We're also going to give it a cut pattern of wood 1. Since this necessarily won't be rendered, we're not going to give it an appearance property. Now let's select OK. Under the thickness of this material, we're going to change that to 3.5 inches. Now we need 2 more layers. If we click the Insert button, it automatically adds a layer on top or below the layer that you were just working in. We're going to add 2 new layers for 2 sides of gypsum board at a 1/2 inch thick each. With one of the new layers selected, we're going to move that up above our core boundary since it's not a structural element. We're going to select the other new layer that we created and move that down on the interior side because it's not a structural element. Under the Function tab, if we select that field where it says Structure for the new layer that we've created, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different selections that we can choose. These numbers determine the layering and joining hierarchy of these materials when they join together in any kind of configuration in the project environment. A 1 will join with a 1, a 2 will join with a 2, a 1 will not join with a 2, and a 2 will not join with a 3. Just remember that as you set these functions up. They should coincide with what the function of your material is. A wood stud is a structural element. Gypsum board is a finish element. So for that gypsum board layer, we're going to select finish 1 as its function. For the interior side, we're going to select finish 1 as its function because it's going to be another layer of half-inch gypsum board. Under our material column, by category, for our first layer, let's bring up our material browser and do a search for gypsum board. Gypsum wallboard appears in our project materials, so we can select that. We don't have to add it into our project. It automatically appears in our material column. Let's do that again for our layer 5. Now we have our function set, our material set, and we need to set the thickness of our 2 layers that we just created. Each is going to be a half an inch. Once you have all your thicknesses set, here in this top header, you'll see all the information that is associated with your wall. The family, which is basic wall, the type, interior 2x4 stud wall with gypsum board, and then the total thickness, 4.5 inches. All of these materials are selected to wrap except for the structural element, which means this gypsum board will wrap around the ends or anytime something's inserted into it like a window or a door family. Let's take a look at our preview. Right now we've got it selected to section. If we look at this button here in the bottom right left-hand corner, if we zoom in to the top, we can start to see the layers of our wall system come together. 1 layer of gypsum board, 1 stud, and another layer of gypsum board. This creates our wall system. Everything's looking good. Let's click OK. This takes us back to our type properties family, or our type properties window. Let's close this new wall system family out and start to draw. In our model space, we'll select a point and pull a line that's 40 feet long. If we zoom in, our plane is cutting at 4 feet above the level 1 floor plan, and we can start to see the layers of our wall appear. Gypsum board, 1/2 inch, 2x4 stud wall, and another 1/2 inch layer of gypsum board. Let's go to that end corner and draw a perpendicular line or wall that's 10 feet long. If we look at that corner, all of the materials that were of the same number start to join together. The finish 1, number 4 of gypsum board, and the structural number 1 of the stud wall. Under the Architecture tab, Wall, if we pull down our Wall Architectural, our new wall has been added to our different wall types. Where last we were on generic 8-inch wall, we now have our interior 2x4 wood stud wall with gypsum board to select for the rest of our project. Let's select that wall, and this time, let's join it with a radius of 1 foot to the next corner. Again, all of the same materials and all of the same functions joined together. If I select another wall type, such as exterior ephes on metal stud, and pull from that same wall, you'll see that different wall type functions and different materials will not join together. Once you've created multiple wall types in your project template, you can become super efficient in drafting and drawing 3D models. The beauty of having these system families preloaded and pre-built is that you can draw quickly and accurately in the 2D environment while also creating all of your other views, from elevations to reflected ceiling plans and sections, as well as a 3D model. This is why Revit is so valuable, because it covers all phases of design. You can be drawing in a 2D coarse detail level view for schematic design, and with a button click, switch it to a fine level and be at design development or construction document phase. I hope this tutorial was helpful. I appreciate you watching. Let's draw some walls.